One.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back. This is the number one best trader competition, novice competition for the spring. This is our week 2 review. My name is Michael DeJoy. I'm the director of institutional sales as well as an educator here with Dash Trader. Joined here by my ever faithful co-host and global markets reporter for NASDAQ, Jill Malandrino. Jill, how are you?
Good, doing well. Great to be back.
All right, fantastic. So our first item of news for today is, the S&P just seems unstoppable. It's higher, higher, and higher. We are at all-time highs on the S&P, and are we going higher or are we going to burn out? What are your thoughts?
I read a really interesting piece of research out of LPL Financial yesterday with their chief strategist, Ryan Dietrich, who's one of my favorite analysts. And he came up with some historical charts and made a really interesting point that for the first quarter, we were up around 6 to 7% in the S&P 500, and that is the sweet spot. If you're up any higher, like 10% or higher, going forward, markets tend to sell off and sort of fizzle out. Whereas this is kind of the sweet spot where you see some consistent returns throughout the year. So I thought that was really interesting. And it's very early in their earnings season, but they have been coming in quite good, and expectations are for them to continue coming in good. We know rates are going to stay muted for quite some time, and as long as we don't get any major or any more hiccups with the vaccination rollout and with the assumption that people who are eligible for it are going to take it, there's no reason why we can't continue to see the economy improve and in turn, see the S&P 500 chug along at an even pace.
You could see all the free money that's been pumped into the economy, and the economy was kind of recovering already. So the added stimulus, and then of course the kind of recovery boom post-pandemic probably had something to play into that, right? Would you see all the stimulus?
Yeah, and see, that was, and I thought that's what the news was interesting this week. The whole point of the stimulus checks was to help the economy get back on board. We didn't see the stimulus go into Robinhood accounts, go into Coinbase accounts, and get back into trading like we saw last year. We actually saw it go into the core economy, and it was reflected in the numbers. And that's what these were designed to do, right? Yeah, corporate tax cuts don't do that. Getting money in the hands of people who spend money do. And that was kind of this experiment that we saw play out. So, there seems to be this concern that raising corporate tax rates is really going to hurt the economy. Corporations are going to dial back on their R&D and paying workers more wages and doing more hiring. Well, they didn't do that the first time, right? With the corporate tax cuts. But when we see it go into the hands of people who are spending, that's what's driving the economy. So I thought that it did what it was supposed to do.
Yep, absolutely. And you mentioned earnings season. So far, most of the banks have blown out earnings. They've done very well. That kind of sets the tone for the rest of earnings season. So what are your thoughts on earnings season based on what we've seen so far, especially with the banks?
Yeah, the banks, of course, the banks with interest rates going higher is certainly going to help their net interest margins. M&A and capital markets activity was record for 2020. In the first quarter for 2021, the deals that I can tell you that we're seeing on the new listings, the IPO side, there's over 270 plus, I think, for the first quarter. That would be a fabulous year in years past. So they're doing great when it comes to the deals, investment banking. Certainly trading volumes have helped there too. And of course, with interest rates moving higher. I think what's really going to move the needle, Mike, is the last week of April when we see the big tech stocks come out. I feel like that's really what's moving the markets even more so than the banks, because they are the new economy stocks and they are the ones that have had that big run. So I think that's really going to be the key here, or certainly the tech stocks, those NASDAQ 100 stocks, certainly what we're seeing as it relates to consumer discretionary. So those are the kinds of sectors that I think are going to have a bigger pulse on the market.
Absolutely. So that you mentioned one thing about the M&A activity, and then we have this massive IPO of Coinbase, which you and I are both very much into digital assets, and now we see the largest U.S.-based digital asset exchange going public, and it was like a rocket ship. What are your thoughts about Coinbase going forward, digital assets, and of course the IPO market?
Yeah, well, I think the Coinbase IPO was certainly exciting for the digital asset space. We keep talking about mass adoption and seeing real companies come on board with this. And I think 2020 really was the year to show that when it comes to digital payments and processing and how digital assets really do have a place in the economy. And so, when you start to hear companies like PayPal, MicroStrategy, Tesla, insurance companies adopting Bitcoin for their balance sheets, it lends credence to the thesis behind it. So things are running really hot right now. Does it mean that they're going to, whether it's Bitcoin, the altcoins are going to go straight up forever? No. I do think, and this is based on some digital asset strategy conversations that I've had on my show, that they do expect some volatility in it, but ultimately up at the end of the year. I think what's happening with altcoins is, and I'm talking Doge, I'm talking about ones, Algo, Ethereum, that are kind of like the number twos behind Bitcoin. They're getting traction, particularly Ethereum, because it has a substantial use case. And out of all of them, that's the one.
Algo pays 6% interest.
Well, look at a platform like SelfSafe Networks. Basically, what they do is, instead of stock lending, it's crypto lends for the most part. You can earn anywhere from like 6 to 10% yield on it. You're not getting that anywhere else. So it's not just platforms popping up for exchanges, but they're actually income producing instruments as well, which is whoever thought of alt income.
It's great. I know I have my algo position for exactly that reason. Where else are you getting 6%? And I think it's going higher. So certainly an interesting set of situation with Coinbase's IPO. It was, we call that a hot issue when it's oversubscribed and the IPO just blasts off after it goes public. So certainly that was, for me, the most exciting IPO of the year. That brings us to week 2 of the Traders Competition. This is the week of April 12th to April 16th. And I'm going to jump in first and do some analysis related to the number 1 trader in the number 1 best trader competition, which is Best 536. Today's gain $218, up $10,000, $10,300 since the start of the competition. Notice that this time we only have 2 positive traders. So I don't know if that's an indication that maybe the market has gotten more difficult. I know that this competition does not allow you to hold overnight positions. So this is pure day trading competition. And if you notice that the number 2 people are positive, and then after that, small loss, but chipping away, slowly making some more money as they go on. And then of course, some of the others chipping away at their losses. But I thought it was very interesting that we don't have many big winners so far in the number 1. Do you think about that, Jill? Do you think maybe it's a market?
Yes, there's a couple of things at play here, and I actually spoke about this today with some options expiration content I was covering. Because we're seeing volatility compressing, VolQ, for example, is at the 19 level now, and it hasn't been that since inception or something crazy like that. Certainly VIX, VolQ, Vixen, they are at pre-pandemic levels. So and this reminds me of 2018, 2019, where everything was just all trading to the upside, and there was like, maybe a 3-point move in the S&P, especially on summer days. It was really hard to get any traction. And while you would expect that with the vol levels we're at right now, what I think is interesting, there is still some chop in certain sectors or certain stocks. You just have to be able to identify what those are. And I think because there's lack of momentum, like we saw in 2020, you have to pick and choose your spots, especially for newer traders, that it is going to be a little bit challenging. I mean, I know guys and girls on the institutional and day trading level that have said the past couple of weeks have really been super quiet unless you're like in a couple of names.
Very quiet market, incredibly quiet market. But usually they say don't short a quiet market because they will blast off to the upside. Usually they say don't short a quiet market.
Well, look at how many people have been shorting since the beginning of 2019.
Yeah, forget about it. Shorting since last March was that got out of style in March of 2019. 2020, actually. 2020,
yeah.
Yep. So we're going to jump to the charts. Thank you so much, Jill, for for all of your insights. And I want to wish you an amazing weekend. Enjoy yourself and all your endeavors there in New Jersey. And
thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Jill.
All right. Take care, guys. Have a good weekend.
Bye-bye. All right, we're going to jump right to our charts here. Let me just give me 1 second just to move to my charts here. right, scan. All right, so here is our Dash Trader. You can see my Dash Trader platform right there in front of me. This top stocks to trade was CLOV. Let's take a look at the chart of CLOV. Well, by the way, first things first, this is the S&P. I mean, just a rocket ship, up for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 days in a row. I mean, in my experience, I have not seen many times when the market has been that consistently up. Here is, of course, Bitcoin, as shown by GBTC, which is the Bitcoin tracking stock. This also looks like an ascending wedge that might lead to a breakout, but it is kind of losing a little bit of its steam here at the end, maybe. It's getting a little long in the tooth, as we like to say. And the last but not least is we're going to take a look at the NASDAQ. NASDAQ also up at all-time highs. The DIA, which represents the Dow, also up at all-time highs. Again, that same 15, 16-day rally and run without really much of a pullback. You look at all the main tech stocks, all back up on their near their highs. MSFT. I mean, basically everything is up near their highs. It's almost universal across the board. Even something like ExxonMobil has a nice consolidation forming and might be making another move to the upside. USO, right? Usually oil takes off. We talked about oil last week going into summer, and certainly we're going to have a boom this summer as people start to travel again, get out of their house. Now let's take a look at some of the stocks from the #1 best trader competition, COLV. COLV, you can see why traders were trading it, and that made a huge spike here today. COLV was our #1 traded stock for the day. Let's take a look at the 5-minute chart on this. COLV, 5-minute chart, looking big move up. My featured item of the day is drawing Fibonacci lines. I know I did this last week, but you can never have too much Fibonacci in your life. Here we go. I just scaled it down. This is a 10% pullback, a 23.6% pullback, a 38.2 pullback, 50% pullback, and 61. This is the most extreme pullback level on for a bullish pullback. So if it goes to 61.8, and I just have to also point out, look how nicely Fibonacci lines up with all the key levels of support and resistance here. So you can see that traders are really putting their money on the line at these Fibonacci levels. And if you double click here, right, you can always add more indicators, right? You can change the colors of your different Fibonacci levels. So very, very customizable with Dash Trader. You make your top and your bottom one blue. You could do your yellow one. Your second tier is yellow. We'll see what that looks like. I think I could probably play with that a little bit more, but certainly looks okay. Fibonacci feature on the Dash Trader software, excellent. I just also want to show you, you can very easily load different charts in. So I have all my charts kind of preset. So the next stock I'm going to look at is on my, I'm going to look at FUBO, FUBO. FUBO just keeps getting smashed, just melting. You can see all the volume up here on our volume by price chart. It's the volume is point of control is way far away. Here is NEO. Point of control is right here at the current price. Let's take a look at this on the daily chart. Bottom, higher low, triple bottom. Maybe this is the point for NEO to finally get its legs back under it. I mean, it had a huge run, but then kind of faltered. I think NEO just is in the #1 best trader competition because it's so liquid and so many traders just like to trade it as a standby. It's not that they had any kind of unusual activity this week. Not like MTSL's got huge activity today, massive gap up and a massive gap fade, gapping all the way up to 560 and then fading down to 391. Big gap up to 560, pull back to 390. And then finally, last but not least, is American Airlines, which had a big gap up today and certainly had a big gap up and run 2 days ago as well. So American Airlines looking very, very good as well. Those are our top stocks. Just to recap: CLOV, FUBO, NEO, MTSL, and I would say NEO and American Airlines are kind of like standby stocks that a lot of people trade. Let me jump right back to my slide presentation. Those are the top stocks that are being traded this week in the number one best trader competition. And of course, everybody, just to all of our competitors, if you have a strategy, review your strategy. It's not too late to take the lead in the number one best trader competition. As you saw, we only have 2 profitable traders. It looks like this is a much tougher market these days. Figure out what's been successful for you. If you've made some trading mistakes, what are they? Try to eliminate them, expound upon what's working, and of course, focus on what you've learned so far. This is a great learning exercise, and you get some great prizes as well. If you have any additional comments or any other thing that you'd like to pass along to us, you can email us at info@numberonebesttrader.com. And the competition runs through April 30th. Visit Number One Best Trader for more information. You can follow us at One Best Trader on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Thank you so much, everybody, for being here with me. You can also follow all of our DAS updates. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, Dash Trader TV. I have a whole new educational series coming out, and I would love for you to check those out. I have a series on options, and I have another series coming out on indicators, advanced indicators, and styles of trading. So really looking forward to you joining me with those. You can also work with me individually. I do individual coaching and mentoring. I just met with a student today, really getting some great progress and some great insights, and you can be part of my trading team as well. So have a wonderful weekend, everybody. See you all next week. Thank you very much for being here.